Good morning, kids, and welcome back to another episode of Fox Flicks on Jordan Friends. And welcome to another episode of his 50 Days of Friendsmas. Now, yes, I know that by the time y'all have seen this, it's already January 1st and it's the new year. Happy New Year, by the way, to all of you. But still, at the time of recording, it's not even the Christmas day yet. So, let's hop in.
Wait, remember Jimmy Two Shoes? It was a
Yes, I
show
do.
on Disney XD that came out in February of 2009 that, despite lasting
I kinda
22
liked it.
seasons, ended up having quite a bit of lore associated with it. Jimmy Two Shoes was created by Edward Kay and
Ow.
Sean Scott, focusing on the story of a kid named Jimmy Two Shoes that lived in Miseryville, the
That
apparent
is
worst
painful.
place to ever live. This show genuinely surprised me. It has a unique palette and tone, also it has lots of creativity with the world building of Miseryville, but another interesting part of the series is found in the development, with its lost pilot and with its troubles in network censorship.
Wait,
so today
lost
we're going to talk a
pilot?
bit about that along with what the show itself was all about. Welcome back to the 25 Days of Fringemas, where
And I've already done the whole 50 Days of Friendsmas for you, so let me just skip right past this. Little more, just a little more. Okay.
home to mutants, demons, and monsters alike,
Excuse
with
me.
weird geography and really fantasy-like deadly landscapes. And everything in Miseryville is exactly that, miserable. Our main character, James Jimmy Two Shoes, is equally the opposite of Miseryville. His optimism knows no bounds, and he'll stop at nothing
loves
to
it
spread
all.
happiness and cheer to those around him. Jimmy is a 14-year-old kid, and it's kind of implied that he hasn't been in Miseryville very long. We, as the audience, discover new things along with him, experiencing the fish-out-of-water moments with Jimmy. But he doesn't seem to be upset that he's in Miseryville.
There we go.
In fact, Miseryville is very much Jimmy's home. It's got its inhospitable moments,
Yeah.
being
Whoa.
surrounded by
What
lava
the-
pits, wastelands, and monster-infested forests, but for the most part, Jimmy is comfortable. His life focuses on whatever is just happening that day with his friends Beezy and Heloise, and specifically the way that Jimmy's optimism clashes with Lucius Heinous VII, whose job at reigning wealthy man is to spread misery and pain. Instead of explicitly being Lucifer, king of hell,
Pretty much his job is just to make everything suck. And his son, this guy, is an idiot. Oh, by the way, show is available to watch on Tubi for completely free. I'm not being sponsored by them, but I would love to be. Tubi, sponsor me, come on. You guys can do it. I love your site. So much
becomes
free stuff.
Lucius, wealthy capitalist, owning and operating Misery Inc., where its workers are forced to build devices with the only purpose of making their lives more miserable. He is often accompanied by his assistant Sammy, who is actually inspired by some past peers of Edward's that he especially didn't like. He characterizes Sammy as pathetic and desperate. On the other hand, Lucius is a villain that Edward seems to respect more. In his own words, Lucius has quite remarkable powers, but doesn't use them most of the time because he likes to think that he's so smart that he can control a situation without using them. So I guess that's why he's focused on the emotional beef that he has with a literal child, because Jimmy just kind of unintentionally happens to dissipate misery wherever he goes.
We'll be right back to Jimmy Two Shoes.
So he has powers, but just chooses not to use them. I didn't know that. Be right back, and we're back.
Now back to Jimmy
There
Two
we go.
Shoes.
To make it more interesting, his son Beezy is best friends with Jimmy, and technically eighth in line to inherit the corporate throne of Miseryville, but he doesn't care much about spreading misery like his dad. Instead, he takes
Not
on
at
the
all.
role of Jimmy's friend. He's characterized as lazy, preferring to eat, sleep, and play video games, but despite him being characterized also as, well,
What happened to
dumb,
them?
throughout the series he shows that he is capable of being deceptive and motivated by selfish desires. So I guess even though their relationship is strained, he's not wholly unlike his dad after all. Heloise is a pretty cool character. Originally,
Yeah,
she
very
was sent as a
interesting.
killer by Lucius to Jimmy specifically to torture him. Edward cites that he was inspired by some of his ex-girlfriends for her character, but regardless, she ended up
You know what?
falling
That
for
makes
Jimmy's
sense.
infectious charm and drops her initial agenda of torturing him. Her character went through a few changes, and in the series she is known not as a killer, but as a mad scientist who is also obsessed with Jimmy. Her character was created by Edward, but Sean is responsible for the look of Heloise, giving her the iconic
Really?
scar on her forehead. While there's no set-in-stone
Oh,
lore
that's a
for how
skull?
she got it, Edward speculates that it could have happened in a number of ways, including her just being risky and doing dangerous
Oh,
things,
you know what?
or even a botched
Yeah, I see it now. Okay. I didn't know it was a skull at first because so much of it was covered by our hair. But now actually seeing it, yeah, now I understand. That is indeed a skull.
Lobotomy. Her personality is well-rounded. As Edward explained her relationship with Jimmy, he said that sweet, innocent guys appeal to the last shred of humanity in her. So yeah, she does have humanity, and throughout the series, I guess Jimmy must bring out that last shred of it because she expresses a lot of relatable emotions. She's loyal and dedicated to her friends, she can be sensitive and kind, especially in the second season when we see her personality shift to be more cheery and bubbly, which is pretty hit or miss with some fans, because in speaking about the second season, you can clearly see how its dark comedy roots were sort of abandoned in favor of making the series in general lighter in tone.
Yeah,
Sean
very
paints the picture of child-friendly
friendly.
as an early idea for what this series could be. He says the show evolved from that concept, and evolve it did. Instead of opting for a traditional base of the setting, they decided to reapproach the died and sent to hell trope in a classy way. The answer was alternate reality. This way, they could
Oh,
one,
yeah, that
appeal
makes
to
sense.
more people universally, and two, go in with a clean slate. They could make the rules if it was more
So yeah, Jimmy isn't dead. He's just in a different dimension.
like an upside-down world instead of the classic and admittedly restrictive 9 Circles of Inferno. And to understand exactly where Jimmy is, we have to talk about how Jimmy got there in the first place. Edward says that he views what happened to Jimmy as a misalignment. He speculates that before he was an average boy living in the suburbs with a white picket fence, helping an elderly person to cross the street when he's then hit by a bus. You know, he wasn't supposed to die type of thing. He's then sent to an upside-down dimension where everything is miserable and unpleasant all the time. Initially, it was created for Teletoon in Canada, who at the time, according to Edward, had a much more mature audience. Teletoon was apparently a bit more lax, at least compared to when the series got involved with Disney in the US. This is where they did some tightening up, with the bulk of its changes being later on in its production, mainly with airing in the US. With Disney,
Getting a lot more info about this show because it has been a while since I've watched it, and it's only on my list. I haven't actually started watching it again yet. But, so, okay, that actually just explains it. And he wasn't meant to die, so, oh my god, I just realized. He got isekai'd. Ha! That's what happened.
they faced a lot of problems.
It's Jimmy Isekai shoes.
Even
Oh,
lighter
that's
humor,
funny.
like toilet humor. There was an episode called The Big Drip that did not air in the US because of this. But in developing the series, there wasn't that much creative suppression. Edward says that the series changed slightly here and there as it was passed around to different broadcasters who all had different tastes and views on the world and underworld. But the possibility of a darker version of this series existing and waiting to be uncovered is just too tempting for some fans. And it's just too hard
I bet
not
it
to
would be
pursue
good.
that. In fact, the majority of attention on the show nowadays focuses on Jimmy before all of the development. The infamous search for the Jimmy Two Shoes lost pilot has been something fans of the series or even just lost media hunters have been digging into. And I think with lost
where
media
is it?
searches, it's better left to those who are more qualified and who have done the digging and research already. The ones who have put extensive work into all that, and I do not want to discredit that. So in the description below, I have linked to a video from L Supersonic Q that is all about this exact subject. And they always do a great job when digging for and discussing lost media, so go check that out.
We'll be right
Note
back
to
to
self,
Jimmy
check
Two
that
Shoes.
out. Now there's nothing in there, it's just my watch. Be right back. And we're back. Here we go.
Now back to Jimmy Two Shoes.
As far as what I think about the series, I truly appreciate a lot of the darker adjacent things to point out within it. It's a truly unique setting that contrasts with the main character, as Jimmy's attitude and nature is genuinely cheerful, making the things around him seem so much better than
What
they
the-
truly are. I just find a lot of that joy hard to not like at all. I wouldn't say this show is up there with the best of them to come from this era, but there is a lot of fun
It's
with this
decent.
cool premise to be had. I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't love to see this premise done in more of an adult form to really play into the location inspiration a bit more, but since it's not that, it wouldn't be fair to compare it to what it never was. I think there is a bit of an older
Imagine if they handed the show off like to Adult Swim to get like a reboot or something, which would allow them to have all the dark themes that were taken out of it.
audience skew when it comes
That
to a
could be
lot of the
cool.
references or jokes found throughout the series, but it has a young at heart nature to it that makes it feel accessible to both a slightly older crowd and a younger one. There's a lot of energy coming from how quick and spunky the series is animated, and the voice performances all deliver an authentic representation of who these characters come off to be. The second season does
Still
come
a good
off a
show.
lot less exciting in the fact that it feels forcefully a bit lighter in tone, but I wouldn't say that there's nothing of value there. It just feels like overall part of the formula is missing, and there is a cool concept to play around with here that if done in a more mature or even just further explored in less restrictive way would be pretty fantastic to see.
This Double Fringe Miss is brought to you by
Oh.
Gamer Subs.
Oh, sorry.
And I think that's actually gonna be. Oh, no. Oh, there's just a little more.
You guys are awesome. Use code FRINGE 10% off Gamer Subs. Jimmy Two
I'm
Shoes
sorry,
had
what was
a
that I just
total of
looked at?
52 episodes, which is
I just saw
104 segments. They ran for technically 2 seasons, and it was a solid run at the end of the day. There was a lot of confusion with a potential Season 3, which left some Canadian fans disappointed when they sat down for what they thought would be Season 3, and it ended up just being the second half of Season 2. So the fans of the show needed a 3rd season, but unfortunately for them, no more episodes of Jimmy Two Shoes were ever made. I would love to know your
that
thoughts
sucks.
on Jimmy Two Shoes if you've ever seen it, and what you took away from what the show was at the end of the day in the comments below. I've been Jordan Fringe. Thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe. Later.
Okay, now we've officially ended it. Okay, so anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and give my own kind of tidbit about the show. It is good if you do like that kind of stuff. So I would recommend it. All class it as like maybe a good 6 out of 10 as a show. Like, it's decent, but because of some of the dark elements that were removed or lightened up, it's not like what it should be. But either way, it's still a decent show, and I recommend checking it out. Like I said, you can find it on Tubi for completely free, and all you gotta do, well, is get Tubi. Completely free, like I said. Anyway, folks, that's going to be the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all you folks next time